Aliens exist and President Trump knows about it. That's according to Israel's former space security chief. In an interview with an Israeli newspaper, he said the aliens have been waiting until today for humanity to develop and reach a stage where we will understand in general what space and spaceships are. NBC News chief global correspondent Bill Neely explains this one.
Hi, Alison. Well, this is quite a story, and it comes from the man who headed Israel's space security program for nearly 30 years. Haim Eshed is making the extraordinary claim that the United States and Israel have been in contact with a group of aliens for years. Not immigrants, but extraterrestrials. He has called them the Galactic Federation of aliens, and he says President Trump is aware of the existence of these aliens and had been on the verge of revealing their secrets, he claims, but was asked not to do so by the Federation in order to prevent what he calls mass hysteria. Well, the retired general says the US and Israel have kept it from the public because, quotes, humanity isn't ready and the aliens don't want to reveal themselves until humanity can evolve, he says, and understand what space really is. Well, the good news is that he claims an agreement has been reached between the US government and the aliens, a contract to do experiments here. There's also, he says, a secret underground base on Mars where there are American and alien representatives. Now, this former head of a branch of Israel's defense ministry is 87. He was very well respected, at least until now. And he said all this in an interview with an Israeli newspaper in Hebrew, but it's really taken off after parts of it were published in English.
The UFOs have asked not to publish that they are here. Humanity is not ready yet. It was a great start to the week. Really. On Sunday, I left Professor Haim Eshed's house in an uplifted mood. Sometime soon, for sure, we will contact aliens. They will teach us everything they know. Science will leap 1,000 light years ahead. We can start traveling time-space and jump with the kids to the end in the cluster of Pleiades. 444 light years away from the solar system, much better than Holon Park, and perhaps even the solution to the Bnei Gantz riddle will be found. This is the good news. There is also great news, but let's wait a bit. Patience. We have been waiting for thousands of years for a meeting of the third kind, and this meeting is just around the corner. Professor Eshed believes that it will happen in his lifetime. And the man is 81, so you will agree to wait only until the middle of this article with the excellent news. Hint? It is about eternal life, but not about this body. Sorry, Nita Alchemista and Aviva Lush, not in this body. Details later on. I would not bother with the spontaneous burst of joy. What about a burst of joy on Sunday? Nor would I stand in my tiny home garden that night and stare at the sky in eager anticipation of the I do not know what, if it were not for Professor Haim Eshed. Not everyone. Professor Eshed is one of the most respected and sharp astronauts in Israel, who headed the Israel Space Agency's administration at the Ministry of Defense and was directly responsible for planning and developing Israel's satellite program and launching the first satellite, Ofek-1, in 1988 with the specially developed Shavit launcher. Later he was also involved in the invention and development of Israeli drones and drones. And the rest is history, the secret rifle. Third type encounters, photo, AFB. What about a pilot, a senior aeronautical researcher and technologist, who won the Israel Security Award and the Chief of Staff's Award, and the aliens? Cascade is by no means a geek from the comic book store that tells you about the flying saucer that landed in his yard yesterday at noon just as he was feeding the cats. No, Eshed is perhaps the most senior responsible adult in Israel in the, let's say, industry flying things at jet speed for purposes for which silence is preferable. But in the last decade, he admits, the aliens have been constantly employing him, and in the last 2 years the business has already become inflationary. With about 6,000 reports last year of UFOs observed in the West, and with the documentation of the celestial object, Oumuamua, in Hawaii, about which Professor Abraham Leib, head of the Harvard Astronomy Department, stated that it was a UFO, Eshed can no longer resist. Even Harry Reid, the former majority leader in the US Senate, has now given an interview and said, click on the government to publish the evidence it has accumulated over the years. Enough is enough. Until recently, Eshed actually managed to hold back, but then Trump officially set up the Space Force. And the press was told that the Pentagon's Task Force for Unidentified Aerial Phenomena would begin publishing its findings to the public every 6 months. At the same time, American billionaire Robert Bigelow's Utah cattle farm, Skinwalker, a place formerly suspected of being a favorite airport by aliens, has documented several things that no amount of popcorn in the world will be enough to watch. Abnormal phenomena have now been documented on this farm, an enthusiastic cascade.
Spectrometers, spectrographs, gamma ray, X-ray, UV, IR, or the fields, and see things who have been researching for 10 years, I was left with my mouth open. Not just me. I spoke with Professor Itzhak Ben Israel, who always grinned a little, and he was also moved. Skinwalker Farm in Utah. Abnormal effects, photo, TNS Skinwalker Farm in Utah. Abnormal effects, photo, TNS. What did they see there? Do you know the term portal in this context? So you see a name that appears UFO, you shoot it in the whole spectrum of cameras, you see the radiation at all frequencies, it goes on. It cannot be some familiar aerial vehicle? No, it shows clear signs of UFOs, insane accelerations, lack of gravity, 90-degree changes of direction at tremendous speeds, deformation. And all the scientists there are in complete shock. And what does the UFO do? You see the radiation bounce, and you see how a transformative body comes. A light comes out of it at a frequency you can't see with the naked eye. In fact, you see nothing when you look normally, but in cameras, at high frequencies, you see that body perform. Mutilation carnage, draws blood from the cattle on the ground in front of your eyes. What exactly did they see? Something like a cloud like that. Like drawing a ghost to children. It's an indefinable cloud, amorphous, and the rays emanate from it, and you see the cow twitching. And when it's over, everyone runs to the field to see, and there is nothing, no blood, but the cow's body has a cut. It's like a laser. They took out her organs and drew blood. If they told me that, I would say, sorry, this is a show. But MIT professors and leading researchers have seen and confirmed it, and everyone's shocked. So listen, you have to at least check. Why does Robert Bigelow himself not tell about it? He received huge funding from NASA as part of programs that my friends from there are just mumbling about under his nose. And he pledged in writing that everything goes to the Pentagon and his house there. It annoys him that the Ministry of Defense is not willing to take anything out. Well, we'll have to stop here for a moment, because we're just getting started, and later Professor Eshed may say even more far-reaching things, so it's worth mentioning here and now about, let's say, his connection speed at his age. Well, it's absolute. In fact, Cascade looks much younger and more energetic than his age. His study is laden with books, tokens of appreciation, and especially countless folders in which he meticulously stores every single article on his business, including, for the past decade, aliens. And he talks about the subject with the same gleam in his eyes with which Richard Dreyfuss runs through Spielberg's third-type encounters. In fact, Eshed is currently a kind of Israeli Dreyfuss traveling against the direction of traffic on the way to an encounter he knows is about to take place at the foot of a mountain whose shape he unknowingly sculpted in his pile of mashed potatoes. The amounts of material and information that Eshed has accumulated on the subject, along with his almost childlike enthusiasm, often cause him to zigzag between different matters and issues in a pattern quite similar to that of an average UFO. Rapid changes of direction, far-reaching accelerations, a form that takes time to stabilize. His determination, even when it goes against what seems reasonable logic or to the perceptions of the mainstream academy, as he calls it, accumulates throughout the conversation and becomes, at some point, compelling. His new book, The Universe Beyond the Horizon, co-authored by author Haggai Yanai, and serves as a kind of biography that tells the story of his life, devotes all his last and extensive part to apology, the study of aliens and the hundreds of findings and evidence collected in the field to date. The materials are serious and authoritative, and do not include explicit references to Aleph or Malk from Oxstar. You quickly read these pages in the book and find yourself mumbling at the end, against your good judgment, heck, they're here. If I had come up with what I tell you today 5 years ago, I would have been hospitalized, Eshed knows. Everywhere I went until today in academia with it, they threw me out. Even though I was a star in other fields, when I got there they said, the guy went crazy. Today they already speak differently. Today they say interesting, but changing a paradigm in science is harder than changing a paradigm in Rabbi Newski. Book cover. Are you not risking academically when you are interviewed on the subject now? I have nothing to lose today. I have received my degrees and awards, I am honored at universities abroad, and even there the trend is changing and willing to talk about it, even if in many places still say, listen, make sure the elephant in the room stays in the room, and do not quote us. Where do you say such things? American presidents also testified to that. Truman admitted to seeing a whole bunch of aliens over Washington. Nixon, who was a friend of comedian Jackie Gleason and knew he was crazy about UFOs, told him, I'm going to make your life's dream come true, and took him to base. White Patterson and showed him the bodies of aliens. Gleason went into depression from that. Eisenhower's granddaughter testifies that her grandfather signed an agreement with the aliens, that they would have a secret landing base here in Area 51 in Nevada. That they could come into contact with a limited number of people, conduct experiments, and that the condition was that they provide us with technologies for the object to disengage from gravity, RS. Nixon. Bodies of aliens, photo, API Nixon. Bodies of aliens, photo, API. And we got these technologies? Yes. We have anti-gravity and other things. So why are they hiding from us, and how can governments and armies in the world be able to cooperate in concealment of this magnitude? Not all the governments of the world. There is a group of partners, the Americans, the Russians, the Japanese, the English and the Chinese, all coordinated at a level where it is still forbidden to publish. And those who ask not to publish are them. Who are they? The Galactic Federation. Is there such a thing? It exists. I wrote about it even though it was perceived as a conspiracy theory, but lately former senior generals are also saying to publish, and Trump was on the verge of finding out. And some mainstream professors are also saying, guys, tell. But the aliens in the Federation say, wait, let's first calm down, do not post yet because you will see what is happening to you. You are still fighting each other, you will destroy yourself. Why not come and talk to us directly? Because it will create panic and collapse humanity. What will happen? The markets will collapse, there will be nothing to eat, people will become cannibals, hospitals will be shut down, all dark passions will come out. It may be the end, and they are not interested in it. On the contrary, they follow all the time. And there are a lot of reports about it, after the nuclear events in the world. They monitor all the stations and nuclear weapons bases. I'm willing to give you all the things written, and there were already things they prevented. Know that it's not just luck that the Russians in the pigs did not use nuclear weapons, the Americans. Someone neutralized it. Without them, I have no doubt that humanity would have already destroyed itself. They want to say to humanity, children, calm down. Why not make contact when they say goodbye and say explicitly? The UFOs have asked not to publish that they are here. Humanity is not ready yet. There will be a great rampage of everyone, and what the Inquisition did to guys like Galileo and Copernicus will return. They want to make us sane first and understand. They waited until today for humanity to evolve and reach a point where we would even understand what space and a spacecraft are. Think. In World War I we did not even have planes, and they do not want mass hysteria here, with the best example being what happened in 1938, with the sketch. Orson Welles' World War I, and the police collapsed and everything exploded in the streets. And what they say is, first of all, let's stand, that the stock markets will not fall, that there will be no rampage, that humanity will calm down a little. Are we in communication with them regarding the date of publication? There is an agreement between the US government and aliens. I cannot prove it. I understand it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but the understanding is that the Galactic Federation has 9 elements of advanced aliens of various kinds, who have signed the contract with us to do experiments here. What interest do they have in us? There are all the resources here. There is water here in quantities that are nowhere else. There is all kinds of vegetation, all kinds of animals, the ocean. But is intelligence developed from us? What are we useful to them? We are their petri dish. They too are researching and trying to understand the whole fabric of the universe, and they want us as helpers. To this day the petri dish has not been stabilized, but it is estimated that we are reaching this stage. Religion accepts their existence. The Vatican has already announced it wants to baptize them. The UN has appointed an ambassador for foreign affairs. The corona has calmed everything and brought us closer to them. Come on, in the present age there is no way such a thing would have been kept secret. How many years have you kept the fact that the Earth is not the center of the universe a secret? 1,500 years. Or the Manhattan Plan, do you know how many people worked there? 150,000 people. How many knew what it was? Why, will they kill him? Yes. Killed a lot along the way. Everyone who opened their mouths. You understand that the discussion with Cascade slides almost at any given time into the expected pattern in which you try to stop the flow of a person's speech with a story that requires at least some degree of skepticism. In front of all your yes, but there are 10 more seeming proofs in the form of articles, quotes, opinions and gut feelings that feel solid. It's still a fascinating discussion, mainly because it's a cascade, one who's fully aware of the conspiratorial ringing coming from the overlap of the whole business. And yet he insists there are things, probably flying, in the body. Throughout most of his years, Eshed actually clung to the here and now. The new book tells the story of a child who immigrated with his parents from Istanbul in the difficult 1940s to the border between the Maghrebi neighborhood and Haikva in Tel Aviv. Categorized in elementary school as a stereotypical and hopeless product of the neighborhood, paved for a vocational school and accepted, still without a matriculation certificate, in the Faculty of Building and then in Electrical Engineering. The sequel already included a doctorate in Aeronautical Engineering, development of technological infrastructure and weapons for the Intelligence Division, and a professional appearance. When following the peace agreement with Egypt and the halting of the possibility of freely photographing what was happening in Sinai, Eshed came up with the unlikely idea of launching a satellite. Opposition was sweeping, but 9 years and about $200 million later, OFC-1 was launched, making Israel the 7th country in the world with the ability to develop and launch satellites. Eshed spent the next 29 years in Israel's security space program, and after his official retirement he continued to develop a science curriculum for middle schools, including the actual launch of tiny bot satellites by students. Then, roughly, the aliens began to enter into the routine of his peaceful life, or as he immediately clarifies at the beginning of the conversation, space for me is an obsession. When an ordinary person looks at the sky at night he sees darkness and some stars. Stars are forming, things are accumulating. Listen, space is Times Square on July the 4th. Space is a carnival. Cascade believes wholeheartedly in bringing the alien, though he personally admits he has never seen an UFO. How many life forms are there in space? There are thousands of stars with conditions similar enough to ours, and serious scientists have identified and documented dozens of life forms, even though the mainstream does not accept it. The closest to us are what we call the greys, which are grey creatures with large eyes with them. It is likely that the initial contact will be made with the greys, creatures that are closest to us. Photo, Shutterstock. Where are they geographically close to us? Suppose some of them came from the Pleiades, planets that have living conditions we know about. We can't get there, but they can get to us because they are much more advanced. Where else in the neighborhood is there life? There is an underground base in the depths of Mars, and there are their representatives and also our American astronauts. How do we know that? Do you want articles? There are. But science, until now, does not want to hear. What do their aircraft look like? The large spacecraft is almost the size of a small town. Small spacecraft emerge from it, most of them robotic, manned by intelligent robots. At first they will send such robots, primitive to them, or a message we will have to decipher. From the movie It. To reach us they need to move at least at the speed of light. What is their propulsion method? Rocket? Nuclear? No. They have a method of producing a bubble that neutralizes time-space, and the tool does not move, space moves, and this is consistent with general relativity. Take for example an ant that wants to reach from one page to the other. Now let's say I folded the page in two, it moves to the other side in a second. That's how you fold time-space as well. What do they use to move time-space? It's a bit of a complex physics. Propulsion is based on dark energy. -25% of the universe is dark matter, which allows time-space to be distorted and reach other galaxies in no time. You can create a tiny black hole. That's what Switzerland's particle accelerator does. It's technologies that sound like science fiction, but are out of the question. And what will happen when they come to us? Humanity will connect to the fabric of the universe, and once we connect, our science will leap in thousands of years. We will be capable of anti-gravity. We will be able to move between star systems. Religion will lose the control it has today. Aliens do not believe in religion, they believe in deciphering the fabric of the universe. He's math. Say, why are they always described as relatively short creatures, with long necks and big heads? This is exactly the way the immediate human imagination will see them. No. They have all kinds of shapes. They are a function of the star around which they cluster, and some of them can make shape changes. Is it biologically reasonable? Yes. Here is an example that you will understand immediately. Cascade points to the heavy wooden table between us. It's a table, yes? It's made of atoms. And if the nucleus of the atom is here on the table, do you know where its electron is? Maybe in Rosh Pinna, maybe in the middle of nothing. It's quantum theory. The material is empty. But you and I do not know how to turn this table into something else now. But we too are energy. Even when we die we do not die, because we are made of molecules and atoms, and we move to another energy. You connect back to the cosmic fabric, to the web, to the connection of consciousnesses. You are consciousness. She's going to die with me, isn't she? No, forget it. The consciousnesses will not die. Everything you have accumulated is added. It goes to the same network, and everything you have accumulated in your life, the personality, the total of what you have gone through, it accumulates. Stephen Hawking also realized that our consciousness adds to the fabric of the universe. We are building blocks. Step in. Biologists will tell you nonsense. It's all chemical and electrical activity in the brain. Bring me proof. Do you know that this is the biggest debate in science, consciousness? They have not summed it up, and there are phenomena that cannot be explained by electrical activity in the brain. I admit that by this point in the discussion I had already moved all my chips to Cascade's side. I'm with him in this gamble. I'm ready and willing, when the day comes, to reconnect my mind to the general fabric. Save me a spot next to Jerry Seinfeld's consciousness, and I'm anxiously awaiting, along with Eshed, the official announcement of continued engagement with the aliens. It's likely to come through. At least a special announcement by the Prime Minister that Eshed believes that Netanyahu is not in the know. Most countries are isolated from it, he says. And better this way. It's too easy, certainly as the last paragraph suggests, to dismiss most of this conversation as somewhat delusional. But Eshed is still the one who has accumulated reliable and impressive enough mileage in his life. From service with the rookie Netanyahu to conversations with Elon Musk, he's a genius. Sit with him, you might feel a little like me. He's a little crazy like that, but he lives things, and his girlfriend, SpaceX, connected to the issue of aliens. Eshed made sure to stay, specifically in his business, with both feet on the ground. I'm not a space scientist, I'm a space technologist, he explains. Elon Musk. A little crazy, photo, API. Not that he would not pay any amount to go on an out-of-atmosphere expedition. In fact, he says, he was among the candidates to be the first Israeli astronaut, but Ilan Raman was finally chosen. And he was supposed to replace me after his return as head of the security space program, and allow me to return to academia. Raman. Selected locally. In retrospect, you're probably glad you did not fly. No, I'm very disappointed. Listen, humanity will not survive here, and if someone does not take care of the environment, I will give us less than 50 years. Humanity will die. I hope they will not let that happen. Space is our longing to know where we came from and where we are going. But in space tourism, you are simply raised to a height of 100 kilometers and then you return. What else is there to do there? Your consciousness changes. If you go out into space, you come back different. Your picture is different. Ask any astronaut who has been there. Are you jealous of Aiden Steve? He's a wonderful guy, and what happened was that they took and soiled it in a babistic way. He came up with it and said, I want it and I'm willing to pay. There were already 5 American billionaires before him who went out. He just wanted to have the experience. My heart ached. Steve. Catch a ride on him. Photo, Mark Nyman Bo. Is space tourism at all a scientific matter? No, it will end up as a hobby for the rich. What is really interesting is the asteroid mining, which has expensive materials in huge quantities. Gold and platinum that have already sunk into the center of the globe, and the asteroids are still on the surface. And cut what you want. And Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are already planning it. It will be a new gold rush. What else will happen in the next decade? I estimate that quantum computers will reach a level that transcends human capacity in terms of consciousness.
Things seem to be going in the opposite direction, with the polarizing social networks and everything. It's momentary. It's like a petri dish that has problems that need to be neutralized. Science needs to be given a chance to work. Today the only thing that keeps us sane is science. He himself continues to research, advise, and work with the Center for Science in Hertlia, which transfers the science program to middle schools and 6 centers in the periphery. His eldest daughter is back in repentance, the middle son is a startupist, and the youngest daughter, now 39, works in Philadelphia as a capital market analyst. This state of affairs has left Eshed, along the corona, devoid of grandchildren visits, and is not accustomed to this kind of disconnect. Married for the 3rd time, Eshed finds himself, more than once, Mrs., but he believes that here too, science is on the way to salvation. Einstein. Both here and there photo, AP. Quantum theory says you can be here and there, and you know what Einstein said about quantum theory? Which is the dumbest thing that can happen, but it works, he says. And that also means we can maneuver in space-time, and while I sit with you here, I can also sit with my daughter in Philadelphia. The granddaughters keep asking where Grandpa is, and that will allow us to be there, really there, not with alternative reality helmets. And you can embrace your daughter even if she is in another country. Professor Michio Kaku said, we will be able to jump 400 years forward like a frog. Think about what has only happened in the last 50 years. How many years has there been an internet? Cellular? Now think in terms of a 400-year leap. Ra anan at y-i.co.il